Most people think a negotiation ends when the contract is signed, but the real game begins the moment both sides walk away from the table. That is when promises are tested, trust becomes visible, and a simple agreement can become a long-term alliance, or slowly turn into regret. In this video, you will discover how strong negotiators protect relationships after the deal, manage expectations, repair tension, create loyalty, and turn former opponents into partners who want to work with them again. The first lesson is that every agreement creates a second negotiation, the negotiation of trust. Imagine a small business owner named Daniel. After months of discussion, he finally closes a supply deal with a large restaurant chain. The contract is signed, hands are shaken, and everyone smiles for the photo. But 2 days later, Daniel does something unusual. He calls the buyer, not to sell anything else, but to say, "I want to make sure the first delivery feels exactly like what we promised." That simple call changes the entire tone of the relationship. The buyer stops seeing him as just another supplier and starts seeing him as someone who protects the agreement even when no one is watching. Psychologically, this works because the human brain does not trust words for very long. It trusts repeated proof. At the table, people may believe your pitch, your confidence, or your arguments. But after the table, they begin looking for evidence. Did you remember the details? Did you follow up without being chased? Did you care after you already got what you wanted? This is where many negotiators lose power. They fight hard to win the deal, then disappear. And disappearance creates doubt. In daily life, this happens all the time. A person promises to help a friend move, agrees on a time, and then arrives late without warning. The promise was made, but trust was damaged after the promise. Or someone says, "I'll send you that file tomorrow," and never does. The task may seem small, but the message is big. Your words are not fully reliable. Here is the curious twist. The most important moment in a negotiation may not be the final yes. It may be the first small action after yes, because that action tells the other person whether the agreement was just a tactic or the beginning of a standard. The legacy of a deal starts in the first hours after it is made. The second lesson is that expectations are the invisible contract behind the visible contract. There was once a consultant who won a project with a growing company. On paper, everything was clear: delivery dates, payment, responsibilities, and goals. But after a few weeks, tension appeared. The client expected daily updates. The consultant thought weekly updates were enough. Nobody had lied. Nobody had broken the written agreement. But both sides felt disappointed because they were living inside two different versions of the same deal. This is why expectation management is so powerful. The mind does not only react to what happens, it reacts to the gap between what happens and what it expected to happen. When expectations are unclear, people fill the silence with assumptions, and assumptions can become emotional debts. The other person may not say anything at first, but inside they start building a story. They don't care. They are avoiding me. They are not as professional as I thought. A simple example is ordering food. If the restaurant says the delivery will take 20 minutes and it arrives in 40, the customer gets irritated. But if the restaurant says it will take 45 minutes and it arrives in 40, the same delivery feels good. The product is identical. The emotional reaction is different because the expectation was different. The curiosity here is that many relationships are not destroyed by failure itself. They are destroyed by surprise. A delay explained early can feel responsible. A delay discovered late can feel disrespectful. Great negotiators do not promise a perfect future. They make the future easier to understand. They reduce uncertainty, and when uncertainty goes down, trust goes up. The third lesson is that trust grows through small deposits, not one dramatic gesture. Picture two partners, Maya and Victor, who negotiate a joint venture. At the beginning, they are careful with each other. Every email is formal. Every meeting feels slightly defensive. But over time, Maya starts doing something simple. She sends short updates before Victor asks. She admits small problems early. She gives credit when his team helps. None of these actions are spectacular. There is no grand speech, no emotional scene, no perfect moment. But after 6 months, Victor says something important. "I know where I stand with you." That sentence is the sound of trust becoming stable. Psychologically, consistency reduces mental effort. When people can predict your behavior, they feel safer around you. The brain is always scanning for risk. Unpredictable people require more emotional energy. Consistent people feel easier to work with, even when they are firm, ambitious, or demanding. This is why reliability can become more persuasive than charm. Charm opens the door. Consistency keeps the door open. In everyday life, think about the friend who always answers honestly, even when the answer is not what you want to hear. You may not always love the message, but you trust the person. Now compare that with someone who is extremely nice one day and completely absent the next. Even if they are exciting, they are harder to depend on. The twist is that many people try to build trust by making bigger promises, when the stronger strategy is to make smaller promises and keep them repeatedly. A small promise kept 10 times can be more powerful than a huge promise made once. In negotiations, your reputation is not built by what you claim under pressure. It is built by what you repeat when the pressure is gone. The fourth lesson is that conflict after the deal is not always a danger. Sometimes, it is the moment that reveals whether the relationship is real. A technology company once signed a partnership with a distributor. Everything looked promising until the first launch went wrong. A shipment was delayed, customers complained, and both sides started blaming each other. One manager wanted to send a cold legal email, but another manager asked for a call and began with one sentence. Before we defend ourselves, let's understand what the damage feels like on your side. The conversation changed immediately. The problem did not disappear, but the relationship stopped bleeding. The psychology is simple. When people feel threatened, they stop listening for solutions and start listening for proof that they are being attacked. Defensive language makes the other person more defensive, but acknowledgement lowers the emotional temperature. It tells the brain, I am not alone with this problem. That does not mean accepting false blame. It means showing that the relationship matters more than the ego of being right. A daily example is a couple arguing about money. One person says, "You always spend too much," and the other instantly fights back. But if the sentence becomes, "I'm worried because I feel we are losing control of the budget," the same issue becomes easier to discuss. The topic is still serious, but the emotional door is not slammed shut. The curious part is that a repaired conflict can create stronger loyalty than a conflict-free beginning. When nothing goes wrong, trust is theoretical. When something goes wrong and you respond with honesty, speed, and respect, trust becomes proven. In business and in life, people do not only remember the mistake. They remember what you became when the mistake appeared. The fifth lesson is that long-term partnerships are built when both sides stop thinking like opponents and start protecting a shared story. Imagine two companies negotiating a difficult contract. At first, each side arrives with a private mission: pay less, earn more, give up nothing. The room feels like a battlefield, but then one negotiator changes the frame. Instead of asking, "How do we beat their position?" she asks, "What would make this partnership worth defending 1 year from now?" Suddenly, the discussion shifts. The question is no longer only about price. It becomes about stability, reputation, future growth, and mutual protection. Psychologically, this is called shifting identity. When people see themselves as rivals, every concession feels like a loss. But when they begin to see themselves as collaborators, concessions can feel like investments. The human mind behaves differently depending on the group it believes it belongs to. If you are outside my circle, I protect myself from you. If we are inside the same circle, I protect the outcome with you. In everyday life, this happens in families, friendships, and teams. Two siblings arguing over an inheritance may become enemies if they frame the situation as me against you. But if they frame it as, how do we protect our parents' legacy and keep the family from breaking, the emotional direction changes. The facts may be the same, but the identity around the facts changes. The twist is that the best negotiators are not always the ones who dominate the other side. They are often the ones who create a bigger circle, a circle where the other side can win without needing you to lose. That is how former adversaries become allies, not because they suddenly agree on everything, but because they begin to defend something larger than their original position. The sixth lesson is that the real value of a negotiation is often hidden in the next negotiation. A young entrepreneur named Elena once closed a small deal with a client who did not have a huge budget. Her friends told her it was not worth much. But Elena treated the client with the same seriousness she would give to a major company. She delivered carefully, followed up after the project, asked what could be improved, and stayed useful without being pushy. 6 months later, that client introduced her to 3 larger companies. The original deal was small. The legacy of the deal was enormous. The psychology behind this is reciprocity combined with memory. People remember how you made them feel when they had less power, less budget, or less leverage. If you only respect people when they are useful, they sense it. But if you respect the relationship even when the immediate reward is small, you create emotional credit. And emotional credit often becomes opportunity later. In daily life, think about a person who helps someone before they become successful. Years later, that small act may become unforgettable, not because it was expensive, but because it happened before there was an obvious benefit. The timing made it meaningful. Here is the final curiosity. Some of the biggest opportunities in life do not come from the deal you closed. They come from the way people describe you after the deal is over. They say your name in rooms you are not in. They warn others about you, or they recommend you. They remember whether you were fair when you could have been selfish, calm when things got difficult, and reliable when the excitement faded. So, the legacy of an agreement is not a document. It is a reputation. It is the emotional aftertaste you leave behind. It is the confidence someone feels when they think, I would work with this person again. That is why a successful negotiation is not only about winning the moment. It is about becoming the kind of person, partner, or company that others want to bring into the future. Because every contract has 2 endings. One is written on paper. The other is written in memory. And memory is the one that decides whether the next door opens. If this video helped you see negotiation in a new way, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who wants to build stronger relationships, not just close faster deals. And now I want to ask you, after a negotiation, what do you think matters more for the future, getting the best terms, or being remembered as someone trustworthy? Write your answer in the comments.